is the Happy Scientist Podcast. Each episode is designed to make you more focused, more productive, and more satisfied in the lab. You can find us online at bitesizebio.com/happyscientist. Your hosts are Kenneth Vogt, founder of the executive coaching firm Vera Claritas, and Dr. Nick Oswald, PhD, bioscientist, and founder of Bitesize Bio.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Scientist podcast from Bitesize Bio. If you want to become a happier, healthier, and more productive scientist, you are in the right place. I'm Nick Oswald, the founder of bitesizebio.com, and with me is the driving force of this podcast, Mr. Kenneth Vogt. I've worked with Ken for over 7 years now, with him as my business mentor and colleague, and I knew that his expertise could help a lot of researchers, and that is why we started this thing. In these sessions, we will hear mostly from Ken on principles that will help shape you for a happier and more successful career. Along the way, I'll pitch in with points from my personal experience as a scientist and from working with Ken. Today, it's almost as if Ken is talking to me. We're talking about the topic, you are too busy to be busy. In episodes 1 to 9 of this podcast, we talked about the foundational principles of human needs, core mindsets, and charisma factors, which we'll be referring to in all future episodes. So if you find this episode useful, please go back and listen to episodes 1 to 9 to get an understanding of these life-changing concepts. Okay, so let's talk to Ken. Ken, I'm too busy to be busy. Tell me why.
Okay. Well, here's the bottom line. What you think you know about busyness is likely wrong. This is the problem. It's funny, I first came to this insight when I moved to Mexico. And I lived in Mexico for a couple of years. Now, moving from America to Mexico was quite a culture shock. They have a different way of living down there. And not inferior in any way. In fact, I learned a great deal from being in a different culture. Now, the Mexican people as a group are extremely hardworking. They work, everybody I knew there worked 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. That was just their normal life. And yet, they never seemed to be busy. They always had time for friends and family. It just was a normal way of life. Now, I was doing the same work there that I do here. Nothing was different. Everything was the same in my life, except all of a sudden I wasn't busy anymore. But nothing had changed. And I realized I need to understand how this works, because if I could bottle this, people will pay good money for it. It's really important to recognize that your feeling of being busy is an attitude. It is merely an outlook that you have. And it's kind of baked into American culture for sure, but I would say more broadly Western culture, that we're supposed to be busy. And we're supposed to be stressed by being busy. And that is a supposition that has not only hasn't been proven, it's been proven to be false. Yeah. Think about this. How many people do you know, if you say, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, I'm so slammed. I got so much going on. I can't even see straight. And you get to see the pride in their eyes. This is how they think their life should be. And maybe you've fallen into that trap, and that's been how you've been living. And at some point, you start to realize, I am not happy being buried. I don't want to be stressed all the time. It's like somebody saying that, they're so happy about their high cholesterol, or they're so happy about their crushing debt. Why would you want to be happy about that? Why would you accept that you're supposed to be happy about that? So the first point I want to make here is that just because busyness is a prevailing attitude doesn't mean you need to buy into this. You don't have to think this way. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't be active and you shouldn't have lots to do. That's fine. Accomplishment comes from doing things. And the more things you do, the more opportunity for accomplishment you have. You're going to like that. But there's a quote from Socrates that I think kind of makes the point here. It says, "Beware the barrenness of a busy life." So is your busyness helping you feel accomplished, or is it stripping away that feeling? Are you feeling empty, that I don't have time to do anything I want to do because all I do all day long is the things I have to do, and the demands on me just keep getting bigger and more numerous? So if that's how you're experiencing life, realize that it's not the truth. It's how you are taking it. And there are some things you can do about that. I mean, obviously you can start saying no to things in some cases, but most of us actually want to stay active. We want to stay busy. So saying no isn't really the solution to all these problems. And in many cases, we're saying, I actually don't want to say no. I want to do all this stuff that's on my plate. I just don't want to be stressed about it. I want to act differently about it. So, Nick, is any of this ringing true?
Yeah, it's very interesting actually, is the idea of, so why would you want to be busy? And I think it comes from, or I mean, one way to look at it is that in different companies or different settings, or different labs, the expectation of busyness is different. Is that the pressure to be busy is different. It's just a way that we want a way for us to fit in and to get validated if we're looking at the wrong metrics on our life.
Right. And we've all heard of busy work. Well, what is busy work? Well, it's that you're being active, but you're not really accomplishing anything of value. You're not no one's looking, the boss isn't looking at you and saying, see, they're just sitting there doing nothing, they're not doing anything. Well, they see you doing, and like, well, obviously he's working. No, it's not obvious. It's not obvious at all. In fact, sometimes the best work you can do is to sit and ponder. Maybe you need to think about what you're going to do. Sometimes it's that planning stage before you set up that experiment where you really think about, okay, what do I need to do this? And how does the process have to work? And taking that time, now all of a sudden you don't look busy. But actually, it's, the busyness is in your head. And which is a good place for it to be. As opposed to you just being running back and forth and like, okay, I need one of these, I go get it. Oh, wait a minute, I need one of those, I go get it. Oh, no, I need another one of those, I go get it. Well, you're active, you're busy, but you're not getting anything done. You're spinning in circles. So you've got to create that for yourself first, where like, I have to take time to think. I got to take time to process the results. And when I say process, I mean process mentally. What does this mean? What conclusions can I draw from this? That you got to have a moment for that.
I think a useful thing might be, Ken, to look at what would the opposite of a busy state in the workplace look like. And in the same ways as we're talking about basically levers you can pull to make move yourself into the mastery zone in your science. And we talked about going from looking for results to asking questions. That's more relaxed. Going from needing to be right to being understanding that all you can give at any one point is your best opinion, and you have to be open to that being wrong, and you have to welcome that, or it's more peaceful to welcome that. And then this is another one of, I have to be busy all of the time versus what is on the other side of that lever. What would you say?
Right. Well, on the other side of I have to be busy all the time is that I have to be in charge of my own life all the time. I remember when I was a young man and feeling like I had become an adult because I had too much to do. And I was really proud of that. I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to grow up. But then later I realized that that's not what grown-ups do. Not the real ones, not the successful ones. So you've got to be more thoughtful about what comes into your life, what comes into your awareness. What are you going to focus on? And if you aren't thoughtful about things, you're going to feel busy all the time. So you may find that the more thoughtful you become, the more present you are to what is actually happening, what am I actually doing, what do I really think, the less busy you'll feel. Now, it may not change any specific, nothing on your to-do list may change, but just being focused in the moment can help you. Now, one of the things that people do that spins them out and makes them super busy in their head is that they're constantly thinking about the 10 things they got to do. They're thinking about number 1, then number 2, then number 3, then number 4, number 5. And they're doing that constantly. Instead of working on number 1, not thinking about 2 through 10 because I got to finish number 1. That constant in your head, oh, wait, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, really gets in your way. And that's what gives you that stressful feeling of busyness. Now, there's another thing that people do with busyness. They use it as an excuse. The fact that I'm busy means I can blame external factors for everything that's not getting done, or everything that's falling apart, or everything that's going wrong. See, it's no longer my fault that I missed a deadline or that my performance was subpar. You see, I was just too busy to do it properly. But what this is doing, it's shifting responsibility away from yourself. And sometimes people hear that and go, good, I don't want to be held responsible. But actually, you do. You really do. You don't want to be held responsible for failures, sure. But get clear that you want to be held responsible. Because when you want to be held responsible, you're going to make sure there are very few failures. Whereas if you're using this busyness as an excuse to be irresponsible, well, what could I do? I would have did it right, but I didn't have time, right? I would have got that done, but I had to do this other thing, and what can I do? It's just an excuse, and you lose all your power. That's a horrible feeling to have your power taken from you. So if you have any inkling in the back of your mind that you're afraid of responsibility, if you're bristling at the notion of responsibility, I implore you to really look deeply at that. Because if you're fearing responsibility, you're never going to be happy. Responsibility comes before you're taking action, and taking action comes before you're accomplishing anything. And you're going to need accomplishment to be happy. It's going to be very difficult to be happy if you don't feel like at the end of the day, you know what, I put in some good work today. I got things done. I moved things forward. As opposed to, well, I spun all the plates for another day and they haven't fired me yet. That is a horrible feeling.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we will cover some some techniques for managing to-do lists and managing workload and things like that in future episodes. But again, this is a really fundamental principle of what are you just understanding what you're doing to yourself here, and how do you unpick that and get to a more healthy workload, a more healthy way of working. One thing that strikes me about this is that it's almost like you need to come back to what the fundamental of why do you want to be a scientist? Did you want to be a scientist because you wanted to fly around being stressed all day? Or is that something that was either you imposed on yourself because you thought that's what you had to do, or it was imposed on you by a culture that you experienced in a working environment and so on? You can step back from that and go and sort of force yourself back into the mindset, the purer mindset of why you wanted to be a scientist, and just realize that actually it takes time to do a good job, and so you need to devote that time. I know that when I get into this loop of being busy, it's because it's almost like I'm not prepared to devote time to things. I just want to get it done. And then it just creates a runaway spiral. Coming back and just realizing that you need to devote time to things, and give them the time that they need. Give your experiments the time they need. Give your thinking time the time that it needs. Give your reading time the time that it needs. Then realize that you have a time budget. That's the only thing you can't have more of. And you have an energy budget. And so then you have to just manage the expectation of what you can fit into that. And guard that expectation away if there is external pressure to try and somehow skimp on it.
So, a concept that I really want people to grasp is that busyness creates a loss of control, and you need control. But when you're busy, you get out of control, and now everything starts to turn into this blame game. It's always somebody or something else's fault. Something outside of your control is to blame. Well, the danger of blame cannot be understated. It is the most costly kind of judgment, and it robs you of control, and it shackles your claim to creativity. So you just can't just fall into this. You can't just let it happen to you. You're going to have to take a stand against it. So if you're going to take a stand against it, how do you do that? Well, you have to have a different attitude. So, the answer is not to play small or to limit your commitments. This is just an attitudinal issue. So when somebody asks you how you're doing, this is a good place to check. What do you say? You tell them how busy you are? You tell them how slammed you are? You tell them how much is on your plate? Or do you instead say, oh man, incredible things are happening. There's so much flowing right now. It's just, you're talking about the same scenario, but you're describing it in a different way. Own it. Take responsibility for what your life is about, and don't let anybody take that responsibility away from you. It's yours. You get to keep it. And don't see responsibility as a negative thing. See it as a positive thing. It's a powerful thing. It's an engaging thing. I like to say that busy equals blame. And that way you just remember that. Busy equals blame. If you're saying to yourself or someone else, I'm busy, I'm blaming something. What am I blaming? Better figure that out. But responsibility equals power. Well, who doesn't want power? So grab that responsibility. Stop looking at busyness as something that's happening outside of you and happening to you, and recognize that you actually can take charge of this. It's not something that you have to just give into. You have an option. Now, I explicitly wanted to have this episode be shorter than some other episodes because I know you're busy. So, is there anything you want to add about this, or any experience you've had with busyness, Nick? Because this is pretty much where I wanna wrap it up.
Sure. I mean, for me, this is interesting because I go through periods of busyness, of where it spirals out of where it feels like it's not in control anymore, and I get better at it over the years, but it's still a bit of an Achilles heel of mine. And at the moment, I'm in a cycle of high busyness, if you like, and bringing it back down.
So let's do a little live coaching with Nick here, folks. You're in a cycle of high activity right now. That's what's happening.
Sure. Well, that is true as well.
A series of important responsibilities.
That's true, but it does also feel like it feels like there is more to do than I can cope with in a working day.
Okay, so the first answer to that then is check your attitude. Make sure that you're not just feeling oppressed about everything, and you're not blaming external characteristics for what's happening to you. You realize, no, I made some commitments to some things, and that's why these things are on my plate. And you recognize that. Now, if you realize that you've taken on more than you can handle, well, that's a great realization, and you can take action on that. But you won't have that realization if all you're doing is, oh, woe is me, I'm so busy. You got to get past that and get down to, well, what's really going on here? What's important? And if I have to choose between doing A or B, what am I going to do? And then what am I going to do about the one that I didn't choose to do? All of that is your engagement. All of that is you still remaining in control. So this is what allows you to have the opportunity to operate differently than the person who's like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't cope. It's not enough.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. I mean, I definitely going to go back and listen to this episode again. It's nice and short, so I've got time.
That's right. And by the way, Nick, I want to thank you for allowing me to throw you under the bus like that, because it gave us the opportunity to show folks, hey, this is how to really think about this. And you'll notice that Nick didn't come away all beat up. He's not bruised and battered. He got a chance to just look at something and see what it's about. So don't be afraid. You can look at this too. If busyness is scaring you, and for many of you it is, don't be afraid to look at it. You'll learn some things when you look.
Yeah, I think the first thing is just to calmly observe what's happening, and even if you don't know what to do to fix it, then just look, even just knowing that it's happening, observing it, and and admitting it to yourself, that is the first step to being able to pull back from it and unpick it for yourself. So I don't feel bad that I was thrown under the bus. That's fine by me.
All right, well, there we go.
Okay, so that's a wrap for today. Just a reminder that we will be discussing these things and more, this topic rather, and more, in all sorts of different ways in the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/The Happy Scientist Club. And also a reminder to check out episodes 1 to 9 of the podcast, if you haven't done so already. In there, we talk about the foundational principles, human needs, core mindsets, and charisma factors, which we refer to in multiple episodes through this series. I hope you're finding it useful. I certainly found that one useful, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you, Ken.
Excellent. We'll see you next time.
The Happy Scientist is brought to you by Bitesize Bio, your mentor in the lab. Bitesize Bio features thousands of articles and webinars contributed by hundreds of PhD scientists and scientific companies who freely offer their hard-won wisdom and solutions to the Bitesize Bio community.